Will Euro USD break the weekly high this week? Let's talk about it in this week's Forex Forecast. All right, starting things off with the US dollar index. The banks added 1,022 long contracts and they got rid of 365 short contracts. And remember, if you do want this Cot Report spreadsheet, it is available lifetime access in the description down below on Patreon. Now, first of all, looking at my two biggest time frames, which we have over here, which is the weekly and the daily chart in the bottom left, you can see we are getting close to weekly demand and we are actually inside of daily demand. But with that being said, if we go down to what I basically use as my, if you're a day trader, you could use the 4 hours as your trend. If you go down to the 4 hour chart right here, you can see very clean 4 hour downtrend. We have a supply zone being respected currently. It is wicking above, so it is looking like, this thing wants to break this downward trend line. So with that being said, I wouldn't consider going long on the US dollar until we can remove not only this downward trend line and the supply fully with candle bodies. And if we're left with 4 hour demand down here, that would be your place to be buying the US dollar. As far as shorting it goes, I think shorts are okay on the US dollar as long as this downward trend line is still in play and is still holding. So with that being said, on the US dollar, remember, we are inside of that daily demand that I pointed out earlier right here. So that is an indication that yes, we could see the dollar rally, but since it's looking pretty weak on the higher time frames, I think we will eventually roll over. So it is definitely possible we see the dollar rally, but at the end of the day, I think we will continue to go down in the short to medium term. All right, on to the Euro US dollar. The past week they added about 2,400 longs and they also added about 4,000 shorts. Now, looking at the euro here, top left chart, the weekly chart here, weekly demand is in control. That is definitely something to consider. So buyers are in control on the euro. But if we come over to a daily chart yet, unlike the British pound, we have not removed this high over here in the daily chart. So once this high is removed, we will have the ability to connect a trend line down here at this valley, and we will have an uptrend on the daily chart, which makes going in long even higher odds. Now, I know it's not the highest odds thing to be doing to just be buying and chasing. That's why we need to wait for this high to be removed and then wait for a pullback down to demand, and then that's when we look to get in long. Obviously, there's money to be made all the way up here, but that's why I'm going to be going down to some of the lower time frames. So if we go over to a 4 hour chart, we clearly have this 4 hour trend still holding. We have this demand zone being respected, although we wicked kind of below. We also have this upward trend line. So as long as this upward trend line holds, maybe we break this high, maybe we break this supply and we're given a new 4 hour demand, that's where you could be looking to day trade inside that 4 hour demand, just like we could have been doing the same thing inside this 4 hour demand. So as long as this 4 hour uptrend still remains on the euro US dollar, I think longs are definitely good. And once we break the high on the daily chart, then longs become even higher odds in my opinion. We just need to wait for fresh demand zones to be formed along the way that we can look to buy. All right, on to gold. The past week, the banks added 21,000 longs and they also added 7,400 shorts. Looking at the weekly chart of gold here, in the last couple forecasts, I talked about how I would love if gold were to push down to 1870 where we can look for a buying opportunity. Now, based on this green candle here, on the weekly chart, clearly we had a pretty good week in gold and we're continuing to push up. It doesn't mean that we're about to go to all-time highs. It could just be a fake out and then a push down. So we're gonna have to go down to the lower time frames and really see what's going on. And the first thing that I noticed here is looking at this daily chart. We now have a daily uptrend on gold, which is very significant. Not only that, we remove supply with this demand right here at 1984. What I'm thinking we could see on gold is a push down to this daily demand and then a move up. If that's the case and we do push down to this daily demand, I will be personally looking for 1 hour confirmation long trades on gold. Now, with that being said, if you come over to a 4 hour chart, there is kind of a more refined entry here at about 1987. There is this little 4 hour demand here, although I think we could maybe break a little bit below it and then push up. I'm definitely bullish on gold, and let's say we push down to the daily demand, and we actually end up breaking the daily demand. Well, just like I said at the beginning, it's not really that big of a deal because we have a weekly demand backstop at 1870 where we can get an even better dip buying opportunity. So as far as gold goes now, I wouldn't even consider shorting until we can get a break of momentum by removing this daily demand. And so that being said, if I don't consider shorting, obviously for longs, we're basically just waiting for this daily demand to be hit to look for longs, or if we go lower, waiting for weekly demand to be hit for longs. All right, looking at USDJPY, the past week the banks added 4,800 longs and they also added 1,800 shorts. Now, in last week's daily market breakdown throughout the week, I pointed out this H1 area of supply on the USD Japanese yen. As you can see here, I talked about this in the daily members breakdown. For the New York session, it's probably already going to be played out, but for the London session, we could maybe look for shorts on a 5-minute chart coming off that 1 hour supply to push down to this 4 hour demand. I think that could work. So that was me calling out this USDJPY H1 supply zone, and that was for the Diamond members. Here are all the options for the Patreon YouTube membership, but obviously, like I just pointed out, if you want access to me on a daily basis with my daily market breakdowns and much more, check out the Diamond membership. I also just included a lifetime access to this if you do not want to pay monthly. So we'd be happy to see you guys join the team and level up your trading. And as far as the USD JPY goes now, like I pointed out in that daily market breakdown I just showed you guys, we are reacting off of this 4 hour demand. Now, I did cut the video short, but in that daily market breakdown video, I also talked about how I don't necessarily think this demand zone is going to hold the yen and we're going to, go to the moon. But I did expect a reaction off this demand. But I eventually think we will roll over. Whether that's going to be off of this supply zone like that, it's definitely difficult to tell. It could also just kind of roll over randomly as well. So I am expecting the USD yen to continue its move down overall, at least to this daily demand zone at 129.144, and we could basically do the same thing like that off that daily demand. So as you guys know, I am bearish the US dollar, and that's why I'm not really suggesting going in long on the USD yen, even though yes, we are reacting off demand. I would rather be shorting down to this weekly demand or daily demand at about 128 to 129. So I'm personally just going to be waiting for shorts by waiting for this 4 hour supply, or 4 hour demand or 1 hour demand to be removed, and see new fresh 4 hour supply zones or 1 hour supply zones that we can look to trade. And remember, those supply zones will be available for the members. All right, on to the GBPUSD forecast. The past week, the banks added 18,000 longs and they also added 8,700 shorts. Now, on the GBPUSD, let's break this down from a top-down perspective. So, unlike the euro, we did break this weekly high recently, actually, in the past week. Or actually, I think we might have broken it before. But anyways, on the weekly chart here, clearly it's looking a little bit more strong than the euro. On the daily chart, like I talked about as well, we have that daily uptrend. Not only that, we have demand zones basically being respected here. We do have a daily supply zone that is in control right now. And in my opinion, that's why we have seen the pound drop. But at the end of the day, we do have a daily uptrend. Weekly momentum is up. 4 hour uptrend, 1 hour uptrend. This is looking fantastic. Now, it is very possible that we do pull back, especially since we are reacting off this trend line now. So I think maybe it's okay to expect a pullback and then a rally up on the pound. If we don't and we break this 4 hour supply, any new 4 hour or 1 hour demand zones, you could definitely look for longs coming off of those 4 hour demand zones or 1 hour demand zones. So as far as the pound goes now, we just need to continue to trade with the 4 hour, the 1 hour uptrend, the daily uptrend, all of that. So I would just continue to look for longs and wait for new fresh areas of demand to be formed. All right, USDCAD forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of about 1,300 longs, and they also got rid of 3,000 shorts. Now, top-down analysis here from the weekly chart, I kind of expect price to pull down to this weekly demand at 1.317. Obviously, we are a little bit of ways away from there, but I think that is where price might be attracted to, down to that weekly demand where it could be a decent buying opportunity. So keep that in mind as we go through this analysis. Now, looking at the daily chart here, a very, very significant thing happened. We broke two very decent, actually very good looking daily demand zones, and we are left with daily supply at 1.35157. We are now reacting off that daily supply. I think either this supply zone or this supply zone could be good for looking for 1 hour confirmation trades to the downside for shorts off of either one of those daily supply zones. And I know I've been mentioning confirmation a lot. If you guys don't know what confirmation trading is, I do have a trading tips playlist on confirmation on YouTube. You could definitely check that out. Or if you want to level up your trading even more, I do have that available in the membership as well. So I think looking for confirmation off these zones are great. To give you a quick idea of what that's going to look like without getting into too much detail, it's going to be on this 1 hour chart where we basically need to see this upper momentum we've had at least start to shift to the downside, and then we could start to look for shorts. So that's what I'd be waiting for on USDCAD as we come off of that daily area of supply. All right, on to the Aussie US dollar. The past week, the banks added 2,800 longs, and they also got rid of 5,200 shorts. Now, in last week's forecast, in the last couple weeks, I've been talking about this daily supply zone and how I thought we were probably going to rally down and push down off of it. Obviously, we did have reactions to it, but we did end up just breaking it. It was a stop out, and then price pushed down lower. And why did I think we were going to react positively to the downside off of that daily area of supply? Well, it's because of this weekly demand at 0.649. I thought we were going to push down to here, and obviously it's still possible. The evidence I would need to see that price is going to push down to that weekly demand will be over here on this 4 hour chart. This is a 4 hour demand zone I pointed out for members in one of the daily market breakdown videos, and look at the reaction we had up to the upside. Now, why I'm showing you guys that is because it's a very significant demand. As you can see, we've reacted off of it again. So what I'd be looking for good evidence that we are going to push down a weekly demand would be the removal of this demand. Obviously, we could react off of this demand, but if we do, and if we're left with 4 hour supply here, that could be your potential short trade coming off that 4 hour supply. So Aussie US dollar, I would just be watching this 4 hour demand zone to see if we're going to break it so that we can maybe push down to weekly demand at 0.64 where we can get a better buying opportunity. All right, on to the USD Swiss forecast. The past week, the banks added 900 longs, and they also got rid of 1,000 shorts. Now, looking at the weekly chart here, my biggest time frame I look at, we have a very significant weekly demand zone at 0.89 that we are about to be coming in contact with. We've already seen a reaction to the upside off of this demand zone. That is the power of supply and demand, ladies and gentlemen. So we are about to react off this weekly demand zone again. I am expecting probably a deeper push into the zone, but I do think we could see the downside action we've seen in the USD Swiss come to an end, at least for a little bit. Now remember, we do have 4 hour downtrends, 1 hour downtrends, so shorts are still probably the best idea. Just remember, we are coming close to that weekly demand, so we want to be cautious with trading. Really, the only thing that I see as a viable option is if we do pull up to this daily area of supply at 0.912, we could look for that 1 hour confirmation trade coming off of that daily supply zone, or really any day trading timeframes. We could be looking for shorts coming off that daily supply. I think that's a decent idea as we pull down to weekly demand. But remember, profits should definitely be taken and stops should be moved aggressively as we contact this weekly area of supply at 0.899. All right, on to crude oil. The past week, the banks added 17,000 longs and they got rid of about 27,000 shorts. Now, we all know what happened with oil here over the past week. Oil jumped up about 7-8%. As you can see, the size of this move here, and that left us with daily demand, which I did expect anyways. I was expecting this supply to be removed and this downward trend line. I knew we were going to have a hard time around this supply again. So I was expecting this move. Obviously, the news just helped it out anyways. So now I'm simply just waiting for pullbacks to get in long. I don't feel comfortable buying up here. The only time I would buy up here, looking at this daily chart, is if this happens. If this is basing up just like it was down here, and we rally up from here like this, and we're left with quality daily demand here, then I would maybe be interested in buying this demand zone. And then also I would be interested in buying this one as well if we end up breaking this one. So that's pretty much all I would be doing here in oil. There is still tons of profit margin to the upside. If you just look at the weekly chart, if I do get in long at one of those daily demand zones, hopefully on like a 1 hour or a 4 hour chart to refine my entry, we can pretty much go ahead and target 87.50, 85, and even in the long run, I think we could go up to like 105 and maybe even all-time highs on oil. I am very, very bullish on oil, even though, and I know that's contrary to everyone else's thoughts, but you know, that's what makes a market. So I'm bullish on oil, just waiting for either a bigger move up and a pullback or a pullback right now. So just got to be patient on oil. It's definitely very risky to be buying right now, and a little bit risky to be shorting as well, since higher time frame macro demand is in control. I hope you guys found this weekly Forex forecast helpful. If it did, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe if you are new to the channel. And as always, check out the YouTube and Patreon membership if you want to get my daily chart analysis and much, much more.